let's talk about 3 really interesting forest sculpting experiments here in the forest. The first one I'll mention is the far side. We're not going to go look at it. It's a big area that slopes down towards the lake, and above it I want to have a view of the lake over it. So I want to shorten that forest. This one is the view. It's the flattest. It's a big flat area here. We cut down all the pines here, and there was just nothing here because coniferous forests don't like things to grow under them. So there was no undergrowth. And that was a little shocking. As has happened before with other types of projects, I thought, oh my God, I'm changing the forest so much. This could be bad. Well, it's not bad. The forest is very, very strong. We're surrounded by seeds of all kinds. And so all these trees in here came in and populated it. The other one that we're also not going to visit is Alicante, which is a kind of snake that sucks milk out of your cow, supposedly. That's the myth. It's also the name of a city in Spain. I may rename that park. But that one has ridges on either side of it, and water gathers in there more. In that one, I want to put a lot more fruit trees, and I don't care whether they're deciduous or not. So let's focus on this one. I was sitting there thinking about the white oaks. There's white oaks and black oaks in here. The black oaks aren't black, and the white oaks aren't white. This is a white oak. And that's a black oak over there, the one with the darker leaves. This one has lighter leaves that are smaller. The white oaks lose their leaves around January or February, somewhere in there. And then the sun gets really strong and hot during the spring, oddly enough. So March, April, May are too hot. And I want to have shady spots that are really comfy. And so I'm going to kind of discriminate against the white oaks in favor of the black oaks. I want to develop a canopy of various trees providing shade all year long. I want all this to be shaded. I want there to be trails and cool alcoves. I want this to end up being a really kind of secret, cool park. We've already planted some things in here that are doing just fine. I'll also mention that the pine trees are coming back. This is a baby pine right here. And so whenever we cut this, about 6 years ago or whenever it was, those weren't there, but there's so many seeds everywhere around here. Like, see those big tall pine trees over there? Those are reseeding this. And I'll decide what to do with those as we go along. For now, they're small, but we could sculpt them and we could make them look really cool. So this is really all about sculpting trees. For example, here we put this together as an arch. Why? Because I told a friend of mine I wanted him to mess with trees. And so he did. And I want to do that some more. I want to become expert at it. Kind of like making big bonsais. We're not cutting a lot of the lower branches. A lot of people would come in here and say, let's cut all the lower branches, give more space for people down here. Yeah, we might do that. We will do that later. But some of those could be used as benches. They can be used as barriers. I want to have fairly dense tree life down at the people level, you know. But the thing that bugs me is that the white oaks lose their leaves during the hottest part of the year. March, April, May. And I want shade that's really comfortable to sit in. There's another arch we made over there. It's interesting, the only ones I see that got sculpted were the white oaks. I don't know why that would be, but oh, here's a, no, that's a white oak too. There's a black oak somebody made an arch with. So I need to decide where the main trail is through this because it's kind of longish, and then I want to start planting other stuff in here. And I think the decision is to take white oaks that are boring and just cut them out. We need more space for other things to have a lot more root space because there's a bunch of tree that's under the ground. And so anything that isn't an interesting white oak and it's not going to provide shade is going to get removed. And that'll just give more strength to the black oaks, to the madrones. Here's a baby madrone. There's a nicer looking one over there. We'll probably encourage lots of madrones in here. And then we've got hawthorns in here. This is a hawthorn. And this is very graftable. We can graft better hawthorns onto these because these hawthorns suck. They don't produce fruit and they're just not interesting enough, and they have thorns on them and stuff. We can also graft onto those quince. We can graft onto them pear, apple, cherry. We think. The cherry experiments just started this year, so we have not proven that will work. But so they're a great tree to have here, and we can mess with them all we want. We could also plant more if we cared. I do like to get more exotic trees in here. Like I've got a banana over here that's actually done surprisingly well since this is such an exposed spot. This is like the place where you see the most frost in the Bosque. This banana is a Musa Insete, and it's done surprisingly well despite the cold winter. I have some in a different spot that's actually more protected, and they didn't do as well, even though they're bigger and more mature. I don't know why that is. Over here, I've got a circle of cedars. Cedars are coniferous like the pines, and so they're going to suppress things below them. So they're not my favorite, but I've got lots of seeds. I can have as many as I want. And so we made a circle of cedars right in here. And then I want to put a fire pit right here. And this is going to be one trail that goes through it. And then the fire pit will be protected by the cedars. In fact, I want to pull with ropes. I want to tie these cedars to each other and sculpt them into a dome. I'll probably even put another layer out there because I want to block the wind in this spot. I want this dense wall of cedars, and then that'll make it so there's less wind. Because, who likes a windy campfire? I don't. I'm so beautiful that the smoke follows me. So I don't know if you've heard that, smoke follows beauty thing. When the smoke goes in your face at a campfire, people always say that. But we've also got acacias in here, which those grow like crazy. We cut a ton of those out earlier this year or last year, and those just grow right back anyway. That's not a problem. They also produce lots of seeds. We can seed those wherever we want, and so there's not any shortage of them. My thought is let's keep the biggest ones if they look sculptural, if they look interesting visually. And we're kind of learning then how to sculpt trees in better ways. Over here we put in some citrus already. Here's a pine. That pine grew up real quick. And then this last spring, I bought a chainsaw on a pole, and we actually topped off all the trees in here. As high as, I told this guy, as high as you can reach with the chainsaw, top it off. And it didn't happen to all of them apparently, but that's about 4 meters, I would say, about 16 feet maybe, a little taller. It was just, he was a short guy, so it was as high as he could reach. There's another banana in here. We've got a mulberry in here, the only mulberry I've got. Where's that at? It's somewhere I can't see from here. And here's a dead cedar. Maybe it'll come back to life, but it looks dead. We're gonna have to replant a lot of this circle to fill in the spots where a tree didn't make it. I'm also gonna make a cedar tunnel going off to this building, and a cedar tunnel that goes off that direction. So just like the circle, I want to create this cedar shade there. So the goal is to get this really dense shade provided primarily by the black oaks or other trees that I can get in here. There's a great tree down in the plaza in Aronga that provides 100% shade, and I don't know what that is. They actually cut it into like cube shape down there. Quite interesting. But the issue is that in the springtime, and really all times of the year, the sun here can be so intense that you don't want to be in it. We're at almost 8,000 feet here, and so the sun is very strong. Also, I want to plant things in here that like shade, and I want to use the black oaks to protect from the cold and wind. We got some rosemary in here. We can just put that everywhere. That's no problem. We do that, by the way, with direct in-ground cuttings, where we can simply go cut a piece off, and in July, when the rains are most intense, put them directly in the ground with a little rooting hormone, you know, to encourage root growth. And then a plant, you know, barely survives. It has to grow enough roots during the rainy season to then survive the dry season, and then it can start to establish itself and grow more each year. I'd also like to put vines in here so that I use the trees as a place that the vine can wind up. And those could be, you know, things like kiwis, or they could be flowers. Flowering vines would be great. The lower story, we can do infinite things with. I've got a little flower over here, a little blue flower. Bulbs do well here, most kinds of bulbs. So these are great. And then these citrus. So we're learning what to do to get the goal of having a more comfortable forest for human use. This one would be more aesthetic. And then the Alicante one, I'm just going to decide to get rid of all the white oaks completely. And because we need to terrace that, I can't plant it yet, but I want to plant in there things for human consumption. So figs, guayabas, citrus, any kind of, you know, thing that people like. And that's going to actually be more of the goal there. Although I want a lot of shade in there as well, but it's going to be shade here and there, you know. So this one I would love it to just all be shaded as much as possible. The one on the far side, that experiment, it's just too much work right now. We did cut the pines, and so we changed it, but there's still lots of big trees in there, and I want to develop the view that's above it, a view of the lake. I don't need a view here because there's a better view over there, and it's just the way the land is sculpted, there's not going to be a view here. So that's the plan. There's other species in here that I haven't mentioned. Here's a grafted Hawthorn that is not doing well. We need to scrape the suckers off the side pieces. Here's a succulents. We can just dump succulents all over the place and not care because there's no work involved with creating those. We can do them by cuttings, and we can, like, I mean, this one plant right here, we could take 20 cuttings off that and just put them everywhere. So before we do a lot of this, I do need to figure out where the primary trail is that goes through it. I don't want side entry locations unless I do. I don't know. It's, you know, these things take years. This is a project takes a lot of patience. But I have a lot of patience. So, yeah, so there's different rules for each one of these different special tree sculpted parks. And I don't know, the far side is just too much work. I can't deal with it. I don't have the labor, and I know I want to put a trail through that as well. Probably as big as wide as a single lane road, and so two people can walk through it easily and everything. And here I'm less concerned about that. My idea is to have a central trail and then have these magic little alcoves and all these flowers and maybe some water features for birds. I also have electricity here. I have electricity down at the other one, Alicante. I do not have electricity in the far side, but everything will eventually get electricity. But in here I can imagine that, especially if the trees are protecting from the cold, if there's this overstory, then at night it actually will be warmer than an open spot, especially if you have a fire, of course. But I can imagine some spots in here having little, like, outdoor LED lights, so kind of a magical feeling to it. That's the goal here.